What do we all want to see? We want to see our region. We want to see our states grow. We want to see our counties continue to be great places to live and raise families and, have businesses and things like that. But some new data on the Kansas side of the state line should be very concerning. Dave Trabert is here. He is joining us from the Kansas Policy Institute on KCMO 95.7 FM. Dave, let's start statewide here for Kansas. There is some new data that has come out that says Kansas had its second worst loss of outflow migration when it comes to adjusted gross income, $607 million for the year 2022. These numbers have just come out, and how surprised are you when you see these numbers for the state of Kansas right now?
Oh, good morning, Pete. Unfortunately, it's not surprising because it has been going on for many years. The last time Kansas had a net in-migration of adjusted gross income, according to the IRS, was in 2009. We never look at the underlying problems. We just keep throwing money at it and hoping a problem will go away. This is especially discouraging, though, because $607 million is the second worst in that period. The only year that was worse was in 2017, which happened to be the year that Kansas implemented the largest tax increase in state history.
So do we know yet? I mean, this is all data from the IRS. Do we know where these people are going, where they've gone, and then that gives us some idea of why they might be leaving? Is it retirees? Is it working age people? What is it?
It's interesting. It seems to be, in terms of, I'll answer that last one first. It seems to be all ages. It's when you look at, they don't give ages. But they do give you data to show the average gross income of those coming in and out, and if the average outgoing income was $76,000. So, these are probably a combination of working people and retirees. It's the outgoing was $76,000, the incoming was $68,000. So and that relationship has been rather consistent, that the outgoing is more than the incoming. So it's broad spread. It's across the state, and this time it was especially bad in Johnson County.
Well, let's look at those Johnson County numbers, Dave Trabert. I mean, this is Johnson County had its worst out-migration year since you guys started tracking this well over a decade ago. Just how bad was it in Johnson County?
Well, Johnson County, the state lost $607 million. Johnson County on out-of-state migration lost $371 million. I mean, a county with roughly 20% of the population losing more than half of the adjusted gross income should be setting off alarm bells. This was a really bad year for Johnson County, but it was the fifth time in the last 6 years that there was a net outflow.
Wow. Okay, so that's a good way to look at it. I want to repeat that. Johnson County's 20% of the state population, but it lost over half of the state's outflow income or out-migration income. So right. That tells you what? People who have the means and the ability to do so are leaving not just Johnson County, but they're leaving the state of Kansas.
They are. And now let's look at where they're going. The majority of the money, the largest outflow, is going to states with lower tax burdens, and the majority of the inflow is coming from states with higher tax burdens. That's not to say that taxes are the only thing that's driving it, but taxes obviously are a major component of this, and that's been consistent. People were coming to Kansas for tax relief from states like California and New York, but they're leaving for tax relief to go to states like Florida and Texas and Arizona.
Wow. Well, it's funny because you don't hear this at all from leaders in the county or even leaders on the local level. I mean, they will talk up Johnson County being one of the great places to live and raise a family. And I think those of us who live here would agree with that sentiment largely as it being a great place to live and raise a family. But it's not all roses like our political leaders try to insist to us.
It's not. And you have to recognize that part of the Johnson County attraction is that it's not Wyandotte County or Jackson County, Missouri. When you're when everyone surrounding people are leaving less attractive places, it doesn't mean that everything there is rosy, to use your words. It's like the people going state to state. That's better than where we have been, but it doesn't mean that that's what you need to have to keep them. I mean, you look at in Johnson County, the population last several years, the population growth has been about half of what it was in the previous 5 years.
Wow.
Still growing.
Yeah.
But the growth is slowing. The outgoing adjusted gross income, there's a pattern here. And at the same time, the other pattern we're seeing is government continues to impose 10% property taxes in Johnson County. They continue to hand out subsidies in the name of economic development. Then you have government officials trying to restrict public discourse, allowing staff to run the government. It's deja vu all over again. They won't do anything. They won't recognize there's a problem, and they won't do anything about the problem.
Yeah. All right, Dave Trabert. I do want to ask you then, this weaves into a campaign that was launched here just last week by the lieutenant governor in Kansas. It's called the Love Kansas campaign. And the goal of this is to basically invite past residents to theoretically come back home, to come back to Kansas, whether that's maybe recent graduates who have left the state for other cities to try to get them back into the state of Kansas. They're calling it the Love Kansas campaign. They launched it last week in Manhattan, and the Lieutenant Governor, David Toland, is kind of the face of this deal. So what are the flaws in it? Does it have any chance of working? How do you see this?
Well, it seems like deja vu all over again is the theme this morning, because here we go again. Instead of dealing with the circumstances causing a problem, politicians like to throw money at it with subsidies, or they have another government program, or they have a feel-good public relations campaign. When something doesn't work, then they turn around and they'll point the finger at the other party, or they'll blame Sam Brown back. And this is bipartisan. Democrats, Republicans, conservative, liberal, the same thing. It's we will not look at why there's a problem. We'll just try to make it look prettier. It's really interesting that they picked David Toland to be the face of this, because that was the same thing. Subsidies and more government was his solution to growing Allen County. And you look at the data in Allen County, its population loss since 2005 is the third worst in the region. It just doesn't work, but we keep promoting people. And let's be honest, David Toland is probably going to be the nominee for governor from the Democratic Party. Laura Kelly has been setting him up, and this is a nice way to throw $2 million at a little problem. They had a nice pep rally to kick it off. And maybe a handful of people see the ads and say, gee, let's move back. It won't make a hill of beans problem.
Yeah.
But they got the good press they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right. He is going to be the successor on the Democratic side for Laura Kelly coming up here in a couple of years. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of folks saying on the text line right now, that Social Security tax break can not come soon enough. But that is something we'll see, I guess, right? If not taxing Social Security helps stem some of the losses the state has been dealing with here in recent years. That may happen, Dave. That may at least be a step in the right direction, not taxing Social Security. And Kansas was one of a handful of states still doing that.
Yeah, it was a step in the right direction, but it's not going to really fix the problem. It will certainly help those people, and it might slow the rate of outflow, but it won't do anything to fix the Kansas economy. it's just not enough. Kansas still has the highest tax rates in the region. Other states around us are rushing to get below 4%. Kansas can't get to 5.5% on the top rate. It's driven by, we can't cut taxes because we need to make sure we have enough money to grow government, add more programs. Government spending in Kansas is up over 60% since Laura Kelly took office, and you can't just blame her. It's Republicans and Democrats who are voting for her budgets.
Yeah, no,
but we're not going to solve this problem by doing the same things over and over again and hoping for a different outcome.
That's true. Dave Trabert, Kansas Policy Institute. We'll look forward to the piece on this, and we appreciate you being here as always, my friend.
Thanks, Pete. Have a good day.
All right, you as well. Dave Trabert on KCMO.